Welcome to the Shared Desk, episode 106.
I gotta say it. I just gotta say it. Mad props to Steve the Blind Gamer Sailor for teaching me something new about the Elgato Stream Deck. I'm really hoping that second edition of Twitch for Dummies happens. I really, really do. Hey everybody, it is once again time for the Shared Desk, and I am your host, T. Morris.
Do you want hobo goblins? Because this is how you get hobo goblins.
And sitting right across from me...
Hi, I'm Pip Valentine.
There you go. That's it.
Tweaked my neck on that one.
Says the woman who just finished her bar exercises after this guy ran just a wee 10 miles. Oh yes, more of that, please. More of that, my girl. Yeah, I found the clip, honey.
Oh, good.
Once I figure out how we can set up a stereo headphones, you'll be able to hear the different things that I got going on.
They're playing in my head.
Yeah, no, they're playing in your head. That's how simpatico we are, you know. How are you doing with your Spanish, by the way? This episode brought to you by Duolingo. We're kind of kicking ass right now, aren't we? Mi español es muy bueno.
Muy bueno.
Muy bueno.
I don't know how to say 506
Te
days.
encanta la corsa de español en Duolingo. ¿Sí?
In Duolingo.
Sí?
Sí.
Sí? Yeah.
Yes.
How about that? You didn't expect us to go all bilingual on you, chat, did you?
Well, I must say that actually we've been watching the Chef's Table series on Netflix, which is great. And quite a few of them are in Spanish, in Espanol.
You know, that I'm going to rank up Chef's Table with both
Great British Baking Show.
Great British Baking Show and
The Repair Shop.
and Queer Eye.
Oh yes.
As
These
shows
soothing shows that just
in the time of Corona. In time of Corona, it really is. You need that.
Yeah.
You need to have. Oh, Gabe.
We're learning how to take care of ourselves.
Puedo hablar español. Tu hablas español. Muy bien. Very nice. Puedo hablar.
Can you speak?
Can you speak Spanish? We're working on it.
Un
We're
poco.
working on it. Un poco. We So I'm at day 154. I think I have to do.
Yeah.
Once I hit today's.
We're both
lesson.
in the Diamond League. I mean, I
Yes.
don't want to, blow around horn.
Don't want to brag, everyone, but we're in the Diamond League,
Hail to the king, baby.
and it's a glorious.
I'm on day
thing.
611.
Yeah. No kidding.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
But I'm
I think I'm going to be fine in the Diamond League for today.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing we noticed about the Diamond League is that once you get
It's hard to get in there.
hard to get in there. Once you get in there, you just have to stay in there. It was fun. I thought there is a triumph in here that says the triumph is. I'm saying triumph because I just did something for blind gamer Steve. That's funny. So there's an achievement. There's an achievement in here, and it says what is it? It said if you hit number 1 in the Diamond League. That ain't happening, chat. It's like me running.
If you maybe did it all day for 7 days, you might. I don't know.
The one who holds the number 1 spot right now in
your Diamond League,
3,457 experience points, and in one day she did 1,000 experience points in lessons.
I got you beat on that one. Gary in my Diamond League has
Gary.
done 6,000, and he's learning French.
How dare
got
you,
no
sir?
friends.
How dare you?
I don't know. I don't,
Sorry, Gary, you got no friends.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we noticed too is that a lot of the people who are at the top of the Diamond League,
No friends.
no friends. It's a shame.
Their eyes are focused on the goal.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, this is the Shared Desk, and for those of you who are new to the stream, and hey, New York Girl and Gabe, again, welcome. Thank you for being here on the stream. For those of you who are new to the live stream or new to the podcast, this is a podcast where we being me, T. Morris, and my wife, Pip Ballantyne, we get together and we talk about writerly things. And a lot of times we talk about things that we want to talk about. But actually, we got some
Feedback.
we got some feedback. We got some email. And Pip, why
On
don't
the
you go ahead?
El papel.
Un carta.
Yes,
Is it carta? Carta.
Una carta electrónico? The
Correos.
Correo
Correos electrónicos. What? Oh, yes.
More of that, please. More of that, my girl.
By the way, if you're wondering where that clip is and who that is Christian Bale from Ford v Ferrari.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. That movie surprised me at how good it was. I did not expect. I'm not a gearhead.
No,
Not
neither
a
of us
gearhead.
are real petrol heads.
Not a gearhead, but man, I
Call
tell
them
you
petrol
what.
heads in New Zealand.
Oh, petrol heads? Yeah, but I tell you what, I was really impressed with that movie if you haven't seen it. So, okay, who wrote to us?
Amanda J. Sorowitz.
Yes, Amanda J. Sorowitz.
Who is a writer and blogger.
Yes, she is. And we have a link to her blog in the show notes, so go ahead and check that out.
Shoats.
In the shows. Well, when this posts,
When
of
I
course.
do the shoots. Let's
When she
face
does
it,
the shows.
I will be doing the
She
shoots.
will be doing the shows.
Okay.
And so anyway,
So
what-
should I read it?
go for it, baby.
What accent? What's my motivation here?
Would you stop? Stop.
Okay. I'm really enjoying the second edition of Social Media for Writers so far, especially with the new section on Discord. That would be your section, T.
Be my section.
I'm part of a small writing group whose members are all new to the platform, and it's great to have a quick reference on hand when one of them has a question on organising our channels or starting new ones. There's also a great book out called Discord for Dummies,
Yep.
which will soon be followed up with a new Podcasting for Dummies. But I don't know. The guy seems a bit of a hack that wrote
He's a bit
it.
of a
but
hack. I
what
won't
are you
lie,
gonna do?
Chad. He's a bit of a hack.
Okay. But I married him anyway. Since the first edition came out, I've put a lot of your advice into practice when creating content strategies for the brands I've managed. I'm happy to say I was able to come up with effective strategies and even had a few opportunities to teach others. I'm comfortable calling myself a content specialist because I have the results to prove I can do this for others.
Absolutely.
But that makes it even more embarrassing that I struggle to do the same for my own brand. So here's the bit we're going to be talking about. One of the biggest challenges I face is with my blog. No matter the type of content I create, I struggle with getting people to care. I've experimented with interviewing authors, writing book reviews, writing insights based on my professional experience, writing informative posts on branding, social media and blogs, and even had a few sponsored posts on content marketing. Since I have no completed book to promote, I wanted to focus on building my blog as a resource for other writers. While the responses I get are few, and almost always in the form of direct messages, the feedback on content quality has always been positive. But the overall engagement and traffic I get is dismal, especially considering this is the 10th year I've been blogging. I'm glad that I'm now in a position where I can devote my full time and attention.
Take it back a line.
Yeah. But
After the
overall
10 years?
While the responses I get are few and almost always in the form of direct messages,
Right.
the feedback on content quality has always been positive.
Right. Keep going.
But the overall engagement and traffic I get is dismal, especially considering this is my 10th year I've been blogging.
Right.
I'm glad that I'm now in a position where I can devote my full time and attention to working on my manuscript and getting back on top of my online presence. I'd be very grateful for any thoughts or advice you may have, even if it's a recommendation that I hire your expertise to help me get you on the right track.
So there you go.
Best Amanda.
Best Amanda.
Amanda of all the Amandas.
Well, she is the best because we actually did get a chance to meet Amanda. We met her at RavenCon a few years ago.
Yes.
Had a great time with her.
Remember when we met people?
Yeah,
Around
remember when
people,
we got
hugged
out,
people?
chat?
Oh,
we
that
met
was-
people.
that
We
was a great
actually
time in life.
Shook hands, hugged. Monkey, by the way, said the guy is a hack, but his wife is cool. So
I've heard
there's
that too.
There's that.
She's all right.
So that's our topic du jour today. We want to talk a bit about blogging, and does it still matter for writers? And it's a really good topic because I've been wanting to get back into blogging because in my time at the at the SEC. I was actually really helping to manage it
Yeah.
by blogging, by getting back into blogging. If you remember, I actually hit a stride, and I was doing a blog post regularly. From what I would do is this, Chad. I would actually go to this terrific place called Blue Bottle. Blue Bottle? I think it was called Blue Bottle Cafe. And in Blue Bottle, I would get my coffee. I would get my Danish, my scone, whatever I would want.
Yeah, you were a regular there.
I was actually funnier still. One of the baristas found me on Instagram, and we've been swapping back and forth stuff. Oh, and guess what? Speak of the devil, Amanda is in chat. How you doing, Amanda?
To talk about this letter you sent. I just read it. So
there she is. There's Amanda, everybody. How about that?
Hail to the king, baby.
All right, or queen in this case. And by the way, Steampunk Rick, yes, we do. We miss seeing you both,
Yes.
and your lovely family, Steampunk Rick. So really, what we were so what I was doing was I was really working hard, getting back into blogging, and how I would do that is I would get to work early, but I wouldn't go to work because I hated the place, and I would park myself with a coffee, and I would just write. And I would use blogging as a method of getting the creative juices flowing, getting some thoughts out, getting words out. And what I would do is I even had it down to a system where I would do one post specifically about social media, so I could cross post it on LinkedIn, because I was getting a lot of traffic on LinkedIn. Then I would flip flop and go to the other, and then on my second blog post of either the week or the month, because I was aiming for bi-weekly, for every other week, fortnightly,
as we call it.
as you call it in the Commonwealth.
In
Or
civilized part of the
and then,
world.
and the other one that I would do is I would do something on my own geeky, nerdy interests. I would do it on Twitch. I would do it on video games. I would even have a writer's post. So I wasn't necessarily, making it like I had tunnel vision. I was trying to keep one post really open, but the other post could be anything
More
social
specific?
media, more social media related, because I was trying to because I am trying to market myself not just as a writer of science fiction and fantasy, but also a writer of books on how to create content online, right?
A content creators.
Content creator, yeah. So I was doing, and I was on a really regular pace, and then
The world stopped.
the world really just kind of
Threw on the brakes.
came to an end.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
And I have, but the other thing that happened, and this is where I think we can have a really good conversation about this. Discord for Dummies was just kicking into the final rewrites, so I was putting off the blog. And then as soon as I was done with that, I went straight into Podcasting for Dummies. And right after Podcasting for Dummies, I went straight into the second edition of Social Media for Writers. So it was literally back-to-back projects, which isn't a bad thing to have as an author. So the question, so let's go back to Amanda's initial question. Is blogging still relative to a writer? I'm going to let you lead off.
Well, I was thinking about this because I haven't blogged for a long time, but after reading this letter, I have an idea about how I might get back into it.
There you go.
I think that when we first, in the old days,
Back in my day.
in the old timey whammies, it was just, write about writing. I think that space has become a lot more crowded. There's a lot more people doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a lot more streaming, for example, wasn't a thing when blogging, was kicking off and all of that. There's been a lot of...
I'm gonna you old internet.
The old
yes.
internet,
You old internety, yeah. And I have thoughts about streaming, but
Sorry, not that old. I was making the noise of the internet.
yeah, oh, you mean?
Mom, get off the phone!
And then you've got mail.
We never got that. Never had AOL. in
So
my
you were so
neck of the
but
woods.
so you were saying though, and I do have thoughts about about streaming, but let's so going down that road, so you're saying you think that blogs about writing or blogs
I think it's a tougher space than it used to be. There's a lot of people writing about it, but they're also doing like YouTube videos about it. Some people are streaming their writing and apparently doing quite well.
Steampunk Rick says Chuck Wendig has the blog thing down. He's excellent.
He is, but he is also in a former life was a journalist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's used to writing quickly, and he has a style that is
Very Hunter S. Thompson.
Hunter S. Thompson,
Yeah.
very his.
Yeah, and yeah.
I think anyone who tried to copy that would make a real big hash of it.
I see. What I did was I took inspiration from Chuck's to say that I blog the way Chuck Wendig blogs is the way it would be to say Phil writes horror the way Stephen King writes horror, and I don't think that.
No.
I think Phil is inspired by someone like King. I'm inspired to blog by a guy like Chuck.
Yeah.
I started dropping a few more as Kirk and Spock would say, colorful metaphors from the 20th century. Double dumbass on you. You know, I would do stuff like that.
But Chuck doesn't write just about writing stuff.
No.
He writes about politics. He
Yeah.
writes about. He
Yeah.
does a lot of stuff about macro photography of
Yeah.
like insects and.
But what he's and what he's doing is
and that's kind of his brand, right? That's a
well, it
mixture
has
of
it's
things.
become his brand. I was going to add to your argument,
But he
that-
started off writing stuff.
and doing stuff about writers,
Yeah, stuff
specifically
about writing and writing.
And I think part of it is what I was going to add to your discussion was that some writers do blogs for writers better than others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying, and I've read. I mean, I've read Amanda's blog, and her stuff is on point. It's absolutely on point. But the problem is that I think it's on point. I can talk about it. I'm talking about it on my blog, talk about it on my stream, just say yes, it's on point. But that doesn't mean that Amanda's going to have the same reach, say a Gaiman or a Wendig,
Yeah.
or even to the point of a Will Wheaton. A lot of people don't realize Will Wheaton actually kind of cracked into writing via blogging, and he's got a wonderful book that is probably considered ancient times now, but it's
Another old timey.
back in the old times. There's a fantastic a book that Will Wheaton wrote called Just a Geek.
Yeah.
And it was about his reinvention of himself after he left Star Trek. That was one of the few biographies. Biographies.
Was that off his blog?
It was some of the stuff off his blog.
Yeah, you see
And
that a bit as well. People collating their
Yeah.
blogs into.
I've even thought about doing that with some of my blog posts as well. But
Yeah.
I want to get back into blogging before I do something like that. So what I think is that I remember my first attempts, and I even said this in Social Media for Writers. I remember my first attempts at blogging were dismal not because I was writing. I mean, people were loving my content and they were digging what I was doing. The problem was that I would spend 3 days doing a blog post about writing, and it was too,
And not doing the writing.
and I wasn't actually writing. It was a bit like the conundrum I was doing with the Survival Guide to Writing Fantasy.
Yeah.
I would spend an entire week putting together a really polished episode that everybody loved, and then I look and go, crap, I'm a week behind in my next deadline.
Yeah. It
And-
is the conundrum of it. I think with me and blogging, I never really found that sort of niche thing that I wanted to write about. I mean, writing about writing, yeah. But then I found I was whinging a lot.
I don't think I think you're not being fair.
I think
don't think you're
whinged,
being fair to you. No,
my last blog post was a huge whinge. I feel like.
Which one? What was your
I
last
think
blog
it was about. It could have well been about getting people to notice your writing.
That's funny.
Notice your blogging.
That's funny. But I think to some extent there is an element of whinging. I remember in blogging
Well,
alone.
some people like a rant.
I think people
Some
like
people like a
people
whinge,
do
I
like a
guess.
rant. Some people like a whinge. I mean, I've done several rants on my blog posts about sometimes me being a bad fan. I did one. I think one I'm particularly proud of was Chuck was getting a lot of fallout. Speaking of the earlier, I mentioned Chuck Wendig. Chuck was getting a lot of fallout for Star Wars Aftermath. And I wrote a blog post that said 5 things you should be more upset about than Chuck Wendig's Star Wars Aftermath. And one of the things that I remember one of the things that I said one of the things that really pissed me off about the entire Star Wars universe was the fact that everybody described Tatooine as like the
back end of the universe?
The back end of the universe, and yet all the action was happening on freaking Tatooine across 6 movies at that time. And
now the Mandalorian.
now the Mandalorian is back, but that's not Tatooine. Sure looks like Tatooine.
No one goes to Coruscant.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone's a Tatooine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no one can go to Coruscant
No,
anymore.
not anymore. Ooh, ouch. Oh.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
That's hard. Too soon. Too soon, everybody. Too soon. So I mean, but I would have a lot of fun when I come up with rants and things like that. And then
Now, my question was,
Sure.
and this is one thing I'm not sure if Amanda would think this, but do you jump on the current thing? Like, do you go on to Twitter and see, what's trending? Waffle House fights. Let's write a blog about
God.
Waffle House fights. Or I don't know. Last week it might have been Chris Evans.
so
Do you go and like, okay, that's the thing people are looking for right now. I'm going to
All right.
write about Waffle House fights.
I'm gonna go and call out one of the kings of blogging about this, because this very thing happened. Now, the reason why he got away with it was because he's Seth Godin. But Seth Godin is like one of the kings of blogs. You know, he is one of the names that people drop. And the thing that I've never really cared about with Seth's blog is that he throws in these sometimes little quick drive-by microblogs, 100 to 250 words, or no more than 500 words, but basically stuff you could read in an average P, that kind of thing. You're in a guy's term. You hold with one hand, you read with the other. You aim, you just don't move. I know. It's gross, but the point is that it's something you could read in the average P. So one of the things that he was writing, you can't believe I went there, but I did. But one of the things that he wrote about was, if you remember a few years back, again, this is going back maybe 10 years or so, there was a young lady who wanted to be a writer. She had a whole bunch of vampire stories. This was at the height of the popularity of the Twilight Saga, right? And she started writing her own vampire series because she was inspired to write Twilight. But instead of finding a publisher or something, she just went on ahead and started releasing through Amazon. This was when Amazon's service was brand new. And her books really started to take off. I mean, we're talking, she was pulling down 6-7 figures and just killing it. Well, Godin blogged about her. And Godin was saying, yeah, you don't need gatekeepers. You don't need any of this. You can be your own publishing rock star. And was just talking about how she was the quintessential, definition of what it means to just, knock back the gatekeepers and not worry about the establishment. The next week, she signed a 4-book contract with like St. Martin's Press or something. Godin's blog, silence. Why? Because he was moving on to the next thing that was trending.
So, yeah.
And after that, anybody that gives Seth Godin credit, I'm just like, okay, please. I'm just sorry, but please. And that's the problem that you have when you do something that's trending. You could say one thing is trending, like you could say, "Oh, Chris Evans, he's the textbook example of making sure that if you don't want to share it, don't have it on your phone. Don't do this, don't do that." And what happens? Chris Evans takes probably the most embarrassing thing you could do, and he turns it into a powerful, like checkmate move.
It's a god move.
Well, he was worthy enough to wield Mjolnir, so there is that. But here's the thing. Enough about Chris Evans' hammer. The thing was, he had that moment, and if all these people blogged about what a dipshit he was and what he did this and did, no, he turned it around and he turned it into the ultimate checkmate move. He did the emoji of whoops. He did the emoji of facepalm, and he was like, "Now vote." I'm like,
he thought about it as well. Obviously, he didn't. He didn't just race off and did it. He thought about, what am I going to do about this? I'm sure he consulted somebody as well.
Oh, I'm sure he did. But the point is, when you do stuff that's simply, when you're creating content that's strictly for content's sake. 9 times out of 10, it's on whatever's the current fancy.
Yeah. So
and
you don't recommend doing that?
I think it's disingenuous. I think it's trite, and I think it's
What if it was
it's a cash
something?
grab.
What
I
if
think
it
it's a
was
cash
some?
grab.
What if it was related to something writing wise?
So I think if it's related to something that's happening to you, I think that's
What happens if it's something that's happening in the writing world? Like, I don't know.
But okay.
Because we have done. I would like to point out we've done a number of shows talking about things that are happening in the writing world. That's okay, though, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Amanda said the only time I jumped on a trend was when you went to hear Lonnie Sarams talk in Richmond, and I admit that's still my best performing blog
Yeah,
post.
I was thinking about Lani.
And
I
that's
know what she's doing these days.
Yeah, maybe pushing coffee somewhere, maybe a Blue Bottle. But the thing, I wouldn't say that because I think Blue Bottle's too classy to hire somebody like her. Just saying. But yeah, I mean, but the thing that works when you are when you're tapping that vein of whatever is trending.
Zeitgeist.
Yeah, it gets you traffic. I
Yeah.
mean, I know for a fact that there are there was traffic that I got when I would I'm trying to remember what it is. When we would it was when the movie The Hunt was pulled from theaters because there was a whole bunch of people that were saying it was targeting conservatives and was targeting Trump voters and was targeting this and was targeting that. And I did an entire blog post about the banning of that movie or the shelving of that movie because I was like, this was based on 3 news reports. And I identified all 3 sources. It was the only 3 that were talking about this movie.
So what you're saying is that if it's something that's in your field, like we've done stuff on like the writing of Game of Thrones, the TV show, obviously because we haven't seen the end of the series, but in book form. But if you were like, I'm going to write a writing post about Chris Evans and his
social media
Mjolnir.
gaffe and his social media gaffe and his Mjolnir, his Mjolnir.
Then wouldn't that just be kind of pandering and trying to get?
I only think it's pandering when you can't relate it back to something that's
your brand,
that's
right?
your brand. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people blog.
So us writing about Waffle House fights would probably not be.
That would come across a little
I don't know how
forced.
we would ever get there into writing.
I mean, honestly, how do you spin it? Apart from saying
publishing is like a Waffle House fight.
Oh, I can't wait to hear this.
You think things are going well, then you start shouting, and before you know it, you're on the other side of the counter getting your ass beaten by the publisher. How about that?
Wow.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
And she was upset about me drawing an analogy of writing within the time of an average pea. For Pete's sake, woman. I mean, wow. What do you say?
I'm not going to do that, but you know.
I know. But the idea, the concept of it's of writing within your sphere. I mean, here's an example. I'm currently trying to figure out when am I going to carve out the time to write this blog post. I want to write a blog post about what is currently happening on my Facebook platform, which is there is somebody on my Facebook platform that is going out of their way, literally going out of their way to get in the last word on this subject matter. And there are people that are continuously, I kid you not, they're picking a fight with him. They're basically telling him that he's out of line. They're basically telling him that he's wrong, and he is pushing back even harder. But here's the weird thing about this, Pip. This guy has said more stuff within 24 hours on my Facebook platform than he ever said to me over 4 years of going to the same high school to him.
That's why I think you shouldn't even bother with him.
Well,
I mean honestly.
I want to say he followed me shortly after the 25th reunion, and he had maybe a handful of words for me. I barely knew him. I just knew him as he ran with the jocks. He was in that.
Okay,
he was
so
in
how
those
does
circles.
that tie back to your writing, though?
It ties back to social media because if I block him, people are going to say, "Oh, it's because he disagreed with you." I'm like, no, I blocked him because I treat my social media like I do my house.
Yeah.
I do, and it's the same thing. If someone were to come onto a blog and say some things that were out of kilter, I'd ban them and I'd trash their. There are people who are afraid to trash comments or to block people, and the spin that I would give
I've gotten a lot happier about doing that.
Yeah, because there's a reason why those things are there.
Yeah,
and it's to me the way I treat, and this would be the message that's the other thing that I would say is where blogs are still relevant. when they are trite, trendy, quick little things like that incident with Seth Godin I was mentioning earlier. I don't write something unless I go, okay, what's the point? Where's the end goal? What am I trying to get across in this 15?
And because we've written a book called Social Media for Writers, I guess we've probably got a little bit more of a in to write about those sort of things in our blogs. Than just than necessarily someone who's just writing fiction might be.
And I think that's the difference between people who write blogs strictly for content's sake and strictly for traffic versus people that are like, every time I sit down, I want to make sure there's a point to this blog post. And in the case that I was just talking about, the point would be treat your social media the same way you would treat your house. Would you want these people coming into your house? And I'm sitting there going, I vaguely know this individual from school.
But you wouldn't let them into your house.
Would I want to hang out and have a beer with him? Well, that opportunity came up during the 25th reunion, and after about 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, I remember why this guy didn't speak 2 words to me. Is because I thought he was a bit of a douchebag then. So the thing was,
Bit of a chucklehead.
he was a bit of a chucklehead, and to be fair, the only reason he was nice to me is because he knew that my dad was the coach of the basketball team.
Okay.
That's the reason, chat. How do you avoid getting bullied in school? You make your dad the coach, or the coach of the JV team and the assistant coach of the varsity basketball team. Suddenly, those jocks, they're real nice to you.
You want hobo goblins?
not many
Because
people
this is
have
how you
that
get
option,
hobo goblins.
but-
I mean, what was that?
Not many people have that option.
No, not many people do. But going back to the what I was going to say is that I think that when you blog, yes, it is still relevant for the writer to blog, but you've got to have an end game in that blog post. You've got to have a point you want to make. If it's just blogging for blogging's sake, I think it becomes problematic.
I've got a question.
Okay.
I have a question.
I has a question.
I know that one of the things that blogging, at least a few years ago, one of the advices for blogging was do the, top 5 or the 5 worst or the number.
The list
list
lists are
aspect.
lists are very popular.
Still popular?
Yeah, lists are still popular. One of the most popular posts that I wrote, and I actually worked with one of the developers to write it for Code.gov, was top 10 myths and misconceptions of open source.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a huge
It
hit.
is interesting.
It was
because
a huge hit.
Because as people are short of time, they're like, I'm not going to necessarily read a 2,000 word blog post, but I've got time to do some, just read some bullet points.
And here's where, but these are bullet points with little descriptors.
With descriptions,
with
yes.
descriptors after it. But that brings me to my next thing. One of the things that I would suggest for Amanda's blog and for anybody that's looking into blogging or that's looking into what they want, if they decide they want to expand on their blog post or something along those lines, is going to be, you got to give yourself some limitations. I personally find the 250 word blog post a little silly. That I call them drive-by blog posts. I mean, if you want to do something like that, post on Twitter. Post on Twitter.
At
post
that
on
point,
Tumblr.
you're almost on a tweet or a
exactly.
Instagram post or
Yeah. Now, I tend to give myself a target point of 500 to 1,000 words.
That's a good chunk, but not too much.
Right, because if you're blogging 2,000 words, that's a
big investment of time.
And for some writers, that's a daily quota.
Yeah.
And
also for the reader, that's an investment of time.
That's an investment in time as well. That's close onto a chapter.
But then you can chop it up and to have part 1 and 2.
If it's a passionate subject that you got a lot to say on, then absolutely go on ahead, break it up into different sections. Absolutely. What I would say though is that if you give yourself that parameter, you find that you are a lot more efficient with your time and your thoughts. You start going, if I'm going to keep this within a 500 word segment, then that's going to be that I have to navigate that. And I would admit that there were some things that I went long in some of my blog posts. One of the most recent blog posts I remember that I wrote was I wrote it. I basically tied it back into social media because I was talking about getting interviews for social media jobs. So I did the 5 worst jobs, or no, 5 signs to know when it's time to leave. And I talked about the worst interviews I've ever been on.
Yeah.
And some people said I shouldn't have posted that because they said that would look bad to potential interviewers. And I'm like, well, if it looks bad to potential interviewers, that means they're doing what I'm saying I was, characteristic of some of my worst interviews. So why would I want to work for them in the first place? That's the first thing. But the point that I was the reason why I wrote that blog post, and it did go longer than 1,000 words, was what?
You were passionate about it.
I was passionate
could tell.
about it. I was passionate about it, and on some other blog posts I've done, like there was one about being the canary in the coal mine, where I was talking about how I would come in, I would do my social media juju, and everybody would love what I would do. And then I would be made redundant, or they would downsize, and I'd be the first one cut. And as soon as I'd leave, their entire social media would fall apart.
And sometimes the company.
And in some cases, the company, yeah. And in a situation like that, the point I'm writing, what am I writing on? What is the point there? The point there is, it's okay to stand by your strategy. It's okay to stand by what you're doing. It's not your fault if you get downsides. It's not your fault. It's not your fault if you're being made redundant, especially if in the wake of you leaving, suddenly there's nothing happening there. So I think once you give yourself a target, a word count target, and then you give yourself what is the end game of this particular blog post, I think that's what makes successful bloggers successful. Which brings us to the other thing. So as successful writers, when you start getting projects, how do you manage the time to blog versus the time to write?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the advantage Chuck has over all of us, because as journalists, journalists are taught to bang out, I need 500 words on, the local sports team. Right. So I think he's got that advantage in his but I guess you probably, when I was actually regularly blogging, it was just like, okay, on a Wednesday I write a blog post.
You just made Wednesday your
I'm just gonna make it a blog,
your blog day.
But I tend to keep mine like probably closer to 500 than 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But I am thinking about, as I'm thinking about it, once we've got Monkey God out of the way, I'm going to go back to the Wold, which means I might well blog or maybe even stream writing it.
Which is a really nice segue to what I was going to mention here.
Planned it that
yes,
way.
I'm sure you did. One of the things that I think at least what I'm seeing people do, particularly with my involvement with Twitch, is I'm starting to see people look at Twitch as almost like a video blog, or even an interactive blog, where they come on and instead of blogging what they think, they're basically speaking off the top of their heads. I did it Friday. I basically had a cup of coffee, and I sat down and I just chatted.
Okay, but then how does that turn into a blog?
Well, it doesn't necessarily. No, it becomes the new form of blogging. It becomes the approach to blogging that you would have, where it's a candid moment between you and your audience, but instead of it being in text, it's now with a cup of coffee, and you're just chatting.
Well, you
away.
could also take that video and post it on your blog.
And you could do that as well if you wanted to do that. Now, the one problem that I foresee people running into is working live. I have an advantage because I used to be a professional actor. I used to do improv comedy, so I know how to think quickly on my feet.
Yeah, and fill in the silence. And some authors are not good at that. And also, as we saw at the at Worldcon, when some authors start riffing, it becomes less of a riff and more of a ramble, and then it just descends into a pit of madness.
And yeah,
then it's on the record forever.
And then it's on the record, and that's where you get with blogging, you always have that option of editing before going live. But when you're on Twitch, it's a whole different ball game, chat. I mean, it's great though because Monkey's out there and Amanda's out there and people are asking us questions.
That interactivity going on.
There's give and take. I mean, would Amanda feel comfortable getting in front of a camera and riffing, just talking about writing or talk? I don't know. I know that was one of the earliest of observations about me as a streamer. Somebody said T has got the gift of gab.
Yeah.
He will talk even if he doesn't have people watching. And
I could have told you that.
Yeah, well, yeah, derp, but again, it's true. I mean, I can go on ahead and I can keep the conversation going. And while you chuckle at that, and you probably have every right to.
I was just
you do.
I do chuckle at, but I also.
But that's the thing. I mean, how entertaining is this?
Not that entertaining.
Exactly.
Well, I was
chat.
just going to come clean and say the time when you went to bed and left me with Ghost of Tsushima, I was like, I have to be entertaining.
Yeah. Let me entertain you. Yeah, it wasn't as
This is not that entertaining. I was like, oh, that's right, I gotta talk to chat and I gotta be saying things, not just going burp, 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 burp.
Boop, 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 slash. I mean, and that's the thing. No dead air. Your radio roots are showing. Thank you, Monkey. Q101, the best music mix. Bullet Alexander spinning all the best tunes for you. Here's Michael Bolton with Love is a Wonderful Thing here on the Q.
No, I don't need Bullet Alexander back.
But again, it goes back to what are authors comfortable with? What are writers going to gravitate towards? And that's always been something that I admit I have an advantage over with other authors in that I understand the value of being able to keep a conversation going even if nobody's talking back to me. Now, that being said, I love the interactivity of Twitch. I love being able to come on with a cup of coffee and just Wart 89.9 FM, Madison's listener sponsored. Oh my God, yeah. That was for me. Just as a quick aside, for me it was WXJM radio, WXJM radio, and WXJM was the student run, and it was very cool. It was very cool. I had some good times there, and I was the Tea Monster. I was on as the Tea Monster. So
it's how it all began.
Actually, before then, but that's quite all right.
So what are we going to say?
So what are we going to say in closing
here
about this? Just to Amanda, I would bring back to what Amanda's original question is. I would say about concerning Twitch is that Twitch would be a trade-off. It's the next step, I think, but are writers ready for that sort of interactivity? And this is why
probably not all of them.
But this is why we added that what a lot of people have said is their most intriguing and curious.
You have my attention.
Yeah, so in this edition of Social Media for Writers, which by the way, since the last show we released Social Media for Writers, the new edition has a chapter on crisis management. And we are not at the level as, say, Chris Evans's crisis management team, but I will say that
I think that was handled in the best way possible. Actually,
I was gonna say what we offer in crisis management is based on stuff that we've seen other authors get right and other authors get wrong, and even stuff for ourselves.
Because we're all human and we all trip and fall.
There's a big difference between making a mistake and owning it, and then owning it to a point of where it's killing a career. And what I would say to Amanda is that maybe Twitch would be an alternate platform you might want to consider. But remember, you're working live and you're working without a net, and it's always tough. It's always tough to start, and you're looking at an audience of 0 or an audience of 1 or 2. But guess what? That's your audience, and you stream no differently than you would with an audience of 100 or an audience of 1,000. And that way, you're ready when you are rated and people come in and they come in with a whole bunch of numbers. Now,
As far as your blog,
as far as your blog is concerned, let's go back to the original question. Do blogs still matter? Are they still a thing? What are your thoughts?
well, they're not for me, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to get back on the choo-choo train to
Right.
Blog Town.
Right.
I think there's still a place for them. It definitely adds new content to your arsenal as far as being an author. I think when you don't have a finished book, it is more difficult. Amanda's saying that she doesn't have her own book out yet.
Right.
That makes it more tricky. But at the same time, publishers want you to have a platform. So it's like, I don't have my platform yet because I don't have my book yet, but you want me to have a platform before I can have my book.
Right. Right.
It's like, nah.
Yeah.
I think there's still plenty of room for blogging. I think you have to put it just in your calendar to get it done. Because like any social media, it's consistency.
Yeah.
If you're not going to be consistent, then don't do it.
And I would add to that with blogs and with really any platform, I do think it is relevant, but I think where people have to be careful is they have to look and they have to ask themselves, okay, it's relative, and I do need to do this, but do I have the time to do it? Do I have the bandwidth to do it? Do I have the ability to work this into my schedule? And if your blog doesn't have a purpose, people will pick up on that, and that's where I think some and then I would argue that even people who are established bloggers and are established voices in blogging, even they're like, well, the paying gig has to come first.
Yeah.
Case in point, I've noticed that Chuck Wendig's blog, Terrible Minds, it doesn't post as frequently as he used
Well,
to.
he's got a lot of projects.
He's got a lot of projects, and that's
Deadlines
good.
have to come first.
And that's good, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I personally think that if you've got a paying gig, the blog has to take a hold. And then when you come back, you go, it's been a while. I've been working through some projects. Here's what's coming down the pike. You could do an entire blog post about what's coming down the pike. You can talk about works in progress and the personal struggles that you're working with it. I do think blogging has a place, but you also have to. But it's no different than podcasting, and it's no different than streaming. You've got to find where it works in your oeuvre of things to get done, so that you're still writing, or you fall into the trap that I did with podcasting and the Survival Guide to Writing Fantasy. Do I miss doing the Survival Guide to Writing Fantasy? Absolutely. It was a lot of fun, and I loved doing it. But in the end, I had to ask myself, well, when am I going to write?
Yeah.
And then it became an even more rough game of survival because I had to make sure that I had time to write. So yeah, I do think that there's a place, and there is and blogging for writers still matters. But there's one more thing I would say to Amanda, and I would say it to anybody else who would want to start up a blog. If you're not enjoying doing it, then don't.
Stop doing it.
Stop doing it. It's that
Making your life hell,
Yeah.
and don't do it.
It's that joke from Henny Youngman. Doctor, it hurts when I do that. Well, then don't do that. I mean, you just, if you are not getting something out of it, there's no point in doing it. I would say the same thing about streaming. I would say the same thing about podcasting.
Well, that's in any social media. If you don't enjoy twittering or pinning on Pinterest, then don't do that.
I mean,
Find your jam.
I have seen authors come on and go, do we really need to do... I've been on the fence about doing Twitter and yada, yada. And I'm sitting there going, I got your... And I wanted to get on with the person and go, look, if you really hate your Twitter experience that much, I got some good news for you. Get out of it. Just delete your account. I'm always one tweet away from a hard ban. Oh, Marv. For Pete's sake. But the difference, Marv, is what the point we're getting at is that, yeah, I mean, if you've got that one person that's bugging you, that's fine. But if the entire experience of being on Twitter
Just
or being on
hurts.
Facebook just hurts, then leave. I mean, with what I'm currently dealing with on Facebook, the main reason I have not left Facebook is because this is how my family wants to keep tabs on me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. And I have kept, but one thing I will say is I have taken Facebook and really scaled back my activity
a lot
on it.
of people
Oh
have.
yeah, I've actually become more expressive on Twitter than I have on Facebook, which I find
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. I mean, I used to be big on Twitter, and then I kind of fallen off it. And now I'm kind of circling back around towards Twitter.
Wait,
I
wait,
saw
wait,
that-
wait.
oh,
No, we're
Marv.
not letting that go. The effing Cheltenham Prime Minister
Cheltenham.
reported
MP.
you for hate speech because he called him the C word. That's just awesome.
How dare
Hey.
you, sir? How dare you?
I'm sure that's what she was saying, or he was saying.
Betty White has a good point about that.
That's true.
particular organ.
Yeah, about that organ, she does. You can look it up.
It could
I mean,
be. It's said in love.
yeah, it is. And that's the thing, Marv. You just come back and you go, it was said in love, right? It was said in love. I meant every word of it, but but I mean, but yeah, if you really don't like blogging, then don't blog. If
It's
you
not
really
gonna. It's not gonna kill your career.
no, it's and
But if you do enjoy it,
then
be
keep doing
consistent.
it. Yeah.
Find interesting things. Maybe some writing things that are current to write about.
But here's something I would say.
Oh, use lots of gifs.
Yeah.
I like gifs.
Here's something I would say about any platform. If you don't like doing it and you stop doing it, fine. And that's where I'm going to leave it as. Don't do this. I've decided to stop streaming. See? I've stopped streaming. Did I mention that I've stopped streaming? This is my last stream. Okay.
It's flouncing.
It's
called flouncing off.
that whole thing where you are constantly making an announcement that this is your final stream, I find utterly ridiculous. I mean, just leave. Just it's that person at the party. It's like, I'm going now.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, I'm at the
leaving.
door. Bye.
I'm
almost out the door.
Can't stand
Bye.
those people. I'm sure
Yeah.
Marv would have a word for them.
Oh, I bet they would. I bet Marv would. Yeah. And as Amanda said, more gifts for Pip. Duly
Yes,
noted.
more gifts.
More gifts. But really, if it has become that miserable of a platform, whatever the platform is, whether it's blogging or otherwise, then yeah, you don't do it, and you don't have to make a big to do about the fact.
I think you're not ever going to not be. I mean, yes, publishers want you to have a platform, but it doesn't have to be blogging.
No.
Necessarily.
It can be wherever you're finding your
wherever
voice.
you're finding your audience.
And the reason why I try to blog and I still blog is because I genuinely enjoy getting my thoughts down and doing stuff about it. I mean, I have thought maybe after another year of blogging, once I start blogging again, of going back and like actually putting in a book some of the stuff that I've put together. And Nerd Girl is right. Yeah. Social media is not an airport where you have to announce your departure, or that your flight is delayed, or that your departure is delayed for some silly reason. I mean, you just stop. Whether it's streaming, whether it's podcasting, just do yourself a favor. Stop trying to. There's a reason why when Old Yeller was brought back, he wasn't brought back to the back of the shed and beaten to death. It was one shot to the brain pan. Bing, boom, done. What?
Charming,
Too much?
too much,
Too
too
much?
much, too
Too much?
soon, too soon.
Too soon? Oh, sorry about that, everybody. Sorry about that. All right. So moving on. Want to go ahead and end on a slightly lighter note. Let's talk a little bit about the Dune trailer. Let's talk about that amazing Dune trailer.
You just love the sound.
I really
the
do.
soundtrack for that trailer.
Checking the show notes. In the show notes, we're gonna have some thoughts about that music. So I found out some backstory about that.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out, and I cannot remember the name of the director, but it was a Polish director who was going to be making their version of Dune in the 70s. And the project fell through. But it was going to be Dune. And Pink Floyd was supposed to do the soundtrack to it. Hans Zimmer, as a tribute, did that. Did that.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous cover of Eclipse.
Yeah.
Which is the last track from Dark Side of the Moon. But yeah, that's why the trailer, and it fits. It fits brilliantly.
I mean, if you're going to risk your life to go into a movie theater again, it might be for Dune.
Would it be for Dune? I wouldn't do it for
might
Tenet.
be.
I wouldn't do it for Tenet.
I
I'm
wouldn't
sorry,
do it for
Christopher
Tenet.
Nolan, but
Sorry.
I would do it.
Sorry.
I would do it for Dune. Just for Oscar Isaac's Dude Leto. God, I'm a straight man and I'd ship that in a heartbeat. Daddy. Hello,
is
Daddy.
home.
No, it wasn't Aronofsky. It was not Aronofsky. He was a prominent European director, Steampunk Rick, and I'm blanking on the gentleman's name, but there's a documentary about him almost making this. He was in pre-production.
Oh,
It was a bit like and I think Aronofsky was the director. Aronofsky was didn't Aronofsky direct District 9?
No, that's it's the South African dude.
Yes. But it was but the guy that directed District 9, he actually created District 9 because he was in pre-production for Halo, and then it fell through, and then the producer Peter Jackson said, "So what are you gonna move on next to?" And he said, "Oh, this student film I was doing called District 9," and
Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Thank you, Alejandro Jodorowsky, and he was doing.
He's a Chilean French filmmaker.
I wasn't even close.
Not even a little
close.
bit.
I'm sorry, chat. I'm terrible. It looked Polish. Name of the deceased. Something Polish? Anyway.
Luckily, you're not doing any.
So, trying to recover from that little hiccup. Wow. Oh my God.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Anyway, so So going back though to the new Dune that's coming
Holy
up.
shit, holies! I'm just going to point out.
What?
Salvador Dali was going to play the Emperor.
Salvador Dali? Wow. Oh my
You want
God.
hobo goblins?
But the
'Cause
funny
this is how
bit
you get
was
hobo
Salvador
goblins.
Dali, if you know anything about him, a bit
Weird
of-
dude.
a weird
dude.
and a highly inflated ego. Well, he was Salvador Dali, but he had a huge ego.
was Salvador
but
Dali.
apparently he asked for $100,000 per hour to act in the movie. And so they cut his thing down to 5 minutes.
Man. I mean, but you know
Is
that,
there a timeline when this movie got made? Because I think it'd be kind of crazy.
Well, that ranks right up there with Marlon Brando doing Superman and insisting top billing $1 million for 15 minutes of screen time.
Do you know what? Do you want to know the main reason why it didn't get made?
I want to hear this.
The director, refused to compromise on its running time. Hollywood did not want the film's length to exceed 2 hours, and he felt 10 to 12 hours would be more appropriate.
Jeez.
Could I get breakfast, lunch, and dinner delivered?
Meanwhile,
while I
Mar
watch
says,
this movie?
"F you, Dolly. Go back to your melting painting." So okay. So let's talk a little bit about this though. So they're apparently spinning Dune doing something similar in Wendig's works, doing something similar like doing a franchise about it almost, but having been not just 2 films, but maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe more films.
As far as I know, the first book is 2 movies.
Okay, so here's
I've heard.
so far we have Dune the film with David Lynch, and then we have Dune and subsequently Children of Dune, the 2 miniseries
They're
produced by
miniseries,
Sci-Fi.
yeah.
So I've seen all 3. Have you seen all 3 as well?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and yet there's only one movie by Sigler, only one. Truth. But here's the thing, though. I don't think Dune, the movie from David Lynch,
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessarily a bad film.
No, it's not. It's very David Lynch.
It's very David Lynch. And if someone had said to me, late 80s, we want to do Dune. It's got these giant sandworms and people that are commanding the sandworms and doing all that. I'm like, oh yeah, you get David Lynch to do that. But the question is, how do you think, based on what we've seen, do you think that they will be able to pull it off in 2 films where David Lynch couldn't do it in one. And yeah, the Sci-Fi Channel did the miniseries, but in all fairness, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Sci-Fi miniseries.
No.
I thought it was good, but
It was good that they had more time, but
but it felt very sterile to me.
I didn't like the other books either. I liked the
okay.
first book.
And I'll be the first one to admit it, chat. I was not smart enough to read Dune. I made it halfway through the first chapter and said, done.
I
Done.
think what happened with me is that my dad. I got into science fiction because my
Hold
dad.
that thought. Crisco with that follow. Thank you very much for that
thank you,
follow.
Crisco.
Certainly do appreciate that, Crisco. Do appreciate it. So, but going back to this.
I was going to tell my story about
go for
June.
it. Please do.
My dad. I got into reading science fiction and fantasy because my dad had this huge love of science fiction and fantasy.
Sure.
And I read all the books, and I think I read June last because it was like a.
Oh, it's a bug killer.
It was
It's a bug
Muy
killer.
gordo.
Yeah.
Muy gordo.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit intimidating. It took me a long time to read it, but I did enjoy it because the world building, like Tolkien, is
it's exceptional.
amazing.
It's exceptional.
And the idea of the worms and the Fremen.
Yeah.
I wasn't so keen on how the whole thing with Paul. I mean, I loved Paul Atreides in the first book. But then some of the things that happened in the previous books, I was like,
it was getting
books,
weirder and
it was
weirder
getting
and weirder.
and
Yeah,
odder
yeah.
But I loved the first book, and so I did enjoy. I remember seeing.
It's a bit like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I know that's a far reach going the Chronicles of Narnia and Dune, but hear me out. The first book was absolutely exceptional.
Except that's not the first book.
And no, I'm talking about Dune versus
okay.
The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Which is not the first book.
It's not?
It's not the first book.
Okay, well, I stand corrected then. But the thing is, that one book in the series is exceptional, but then all the ones after that just sort of gradually start to,
I disagree with you on Narnia on that. But
Okay, fair enough.
I know what you're trying to say. Yes, the first book was really, really great.
But the thing is, one of the things I heard was people were saying, well, this is not going to miss like Dune in the late 80s because this movie, this film's got an amazing cast. Javier Bardem. It's got Oscar
Jason
Isaac,
Momoa,
Jason Momoa.
and,
It's got this new kid.
Timothy Chalamet, I think his name is.
And
he's the sort of the indie darling.
The woman
wind-tossed indie darling.
Yeah, the woman who was the baddie in Dr. Sleep, she's in this. I mean, they've taken some of the characters, made them female. They got really good. Keep in mind, though, in the David Lynch film, let's rattle off some of the people who were on that.
Oh, Sting.
You had Jürgen Perchow, which if you don't recognize the name, he was the guy that was the big baddie in Beverly Hills Cop 2, but he was also the commander of the U-boat in Das Boot. So
he was Duke. Was he Duke Leto?
He was Duke Leto, and I loved his Duke Leto.
Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan, that nobody he was a relative unknown, and he had done Blue Velvet by that time.
Yeah.
And
he was also kind of like the indie darling.
And he was the indie darling as well. And let's not forget, Patrick Stewart was in this thing.
Yeah.
Pre Star Trek, Patrick Stewart was in this. There's a good. And big in the 80s, Sean Young. Sean Young was in this. They had a very
they're similar
solid
in that
cast.
respect. There is a lot of talent there. Some of the other people that are in here, Dave Bautista is going to be in there.
Yeah. Oh my God, David Bautista is the Beast.
Yeah.
As Raban. Oh my God.
Skarsgård is going to be
Baron Harkonnen.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Zendaya.
So it's Zendaya as Chani. I mean, I think.
Charlotte Rampling, who is a great British actress. As soon as you see her, she's just amazing.
But I mean, the thing I'm getting at, the thing I'm getting at is that both movies, both Dunes have really something going for it. But here's where I think, and this is where I feel like I'm doubling down. David Lynch was an acquired taste.
Yes.
He's an acquired taste. Let's just come out and say it. He's not as freaky as say Aronofsky. He is not that out there.
He is an oddball.
But he is an odd duck. Versus Villeneuve. I mean, I forgot I was watching a non-Ridley Scott film.
Villeneuve. He's a French Canadian.
I honestly forgot that I was watching a sequel to Blade Runner when I was watching Blade Runner.
Yeah, and we went into
2049.
Blade Runner and we were like,
I was very skeptical
very skeptical.
because
And then we were like,
it was twice as long. It was twice as long, and it was directed by a guy that I didn't know.
yeah.
And I'll go you one better. I honestly thought that they had found some unpublished music from Vangelis. To find out that was Hans Zimmer. I mean, and you know how I am about my movie scores.
you love, yeah. You're
I
big
love
on
me
the
the music scores.
soundtracks.
But here's but that's the thing. When you think about the scope of Blade Runner, of Blade Runner 2049, I mean, and you see some of that reflected in the trailer of Dune. I really think they have a more refined director, particularly for science fiction, for hard science fiction.
Yeah.
In this respect, and and also the thing I like about what we see in the trailer is that yes, it's still muted colors. There's still a bareness to it, but it didn't feel. Not one part of that felt sterile to me.
No, it felt like that they made the world straight out of the book.
Yeah.
The little details like the when you see the worms, they have like long, thin, basically like spears which are their teeth.
Yeah.
Now in the 80s one, they had them where they had like a 3-part, like almost like it opened up. And then you saw the teeth.
Yeah.
But in this
I was okay
version-
with this. No, they actually look like the
They
book
actually look like
illustrations.
the book versions.
And I
of that one.
loved it too, where you could scoop up the sand, and when you hold it up, you saw the little flecks of the spice.
And the still suits look really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I mean, there's.
Um,
I'm not even cautiously optimistic.
I'm excited to see it.
I'm insane.
And I do really like the fact that it is just the first half of the book, because
Yeah.
the book is massive and there's such a lot of world building. It would be like trying to cram Lord of the Rings into one movie, which
Right.
they.
I would love to hear your thoughts in chat. I would love to know. Would you put on a mask and go to the theaters
And go to theaters.
to see Dune? And I would say unequivocally, yes. I think I would. I think I would. So, in closing, everybody, we're going to stick around and do a quick little after show chat, which is one of the benefits of you coming in to stream and spending some time with us. First off, thank you all for joining us on the live stream. We really do appreciate the worm poop. Would you stop, Rick? Would you stop, Rick? All right.
Hang out, monkey.
Yeah, and always a pleasure, Monkey. Always a pleasure. If you have thoughts about blogging and the relevance of blogging for the writer, we'd love to hear from you, just the way we heard from Amanda. If you've got thoughts on the upcoming Dune, and if you would tell us, would you risk your life to go and see it? We'd love to hear from you. Remember, it's 703-791-1701 on WhatsApp, which is not being banned by the government until somebody makes fun of Trump. Or if you want to leave us voicemail straight up, that's the number, 703-791-1701. You can also drop us an email at t@tmorris.com or
Pep at pjballantyne.com.
you can also check and see if we've started blogging again over at my blog.
Hold him accountable.
Yeah, hold us both accountable.
Not me.
At tmorris.com or
pjballantyne.com.
yeah, she doesn't even remember.
Actually, I have
she
several URLs.
She doesn't even remember where.
PhilippaBallantyne.com will also get you to the same place.
She doesn't
But it's
even remember.
pjballantyne.com.
She doesn't even remember, chat.
Luckily,
does
I'm
not.
editing.
No, she doesn't even remember. It's a shame.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
Anyway, so there you have it. There you have it, everybody. So just remember, folks, that the shared desk is protected by a non-commercial, no derivative, share-alike United States 3.0 license, and it is protected by Creative Commons, and you can find out more about that at creativecommons.org. It is always a pleasure having you with us. Both on the live stream and on the podcast. We appreciate you listening. Remember, you can pick up Social Media for Writers, the second edition, anywhere books are sold. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, enjoy the ride, chat.
Catch you later.
And we're clear. Okay, everybody. Hey, welcome back. This is the after show. This is where we just hang out for a bit. I don't know how long we're going to hang out because I know...
Hungry.
Yeah, we're getting kind of hangry. But I did want to say real quick to everyone watching that, yes, tonight we are coming back at... as a matter of fact, while Pip prepares
We're gonna
dinner...
briefly be gone, and then we'll be back.
Yeah, my mic is picking up Pip's mic too. Well, that's cool because at least it works for the closed captioning. So long as her mic sounds good, that's the important bit. I want to make sure she sounds clear.
My mic sounds good.
Well, that's that, but it's also because we're having another delay with Happy Hour from the Tower. We were really excited about finally getting a show, and I was finally getting around to doing it. Oh, look at that!
More Fireside lore.
More Fireside lore.
How many pieces are we up to now?
This is the only thing I got because I don't have on this I don't have the CSI the CSI on this one. So it turns out, chat, I got quite the schooling. From Steve the Blind Gamer Sailor. He taught me something new with Elgato's Stream Deck that I didn't know I could do. And so now this is the smoothest we have ever done the shared desk, and I know I can improve it.
Is that because of Steve?
A lot of it because the Stream Deck.
He's a good lad, Steve.
My mother loves Steve.
He's one of our favorite Steves.
Yeah, and but no, actually, Steve taught me how to do a what's called a profile on the Stream Deck. So basically, I have a profile for the shared desk now, but I also have a profile for Twitch Dad streams. I also have a profile for my regular streams. Okay. So so it's really kind of cool.
You can point out that you don't have holes underneath your shelf now.
I was also going to point that out too. You'll notice I don't have bullet holes behind me now. He does not have a Tinder profile, Marv. He does not have a Tinder profile. Damn it, Marv.
Hey, Marv, you're going to say things like that. You're going to share your Tinder and Grindr.
Yeah. What's your Tinder and Grindr, Marv? Big hot salami UK.com. Is that what that is? Guardian on Grindr.com. Is that it, Marv? Is that it?
You're making me
That's what it is. Guardian
Grindr.
That's his username on Grindr, chat. Guardian Grindr. That's Big Marvinsky right there. There we go. Chocolate
boys.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Hail to the king, baby.
Very nice, Marv.
Lordy,
Very nice.
lordy,
We love you,
lordy.
Marv. Chocolate boy. Make sure. Boy. Be a boy. Sorry for the racism. It's a bit like Homelander. It isn't gay if you fuck yourself. So it's not really racist, Marv, if you're being racist to yourself.
Color.
Yeah, if you're a person of color.
I don't think you can be racist to yourself.
Can you be racist to yourself? It's a bit like that whole thing with Homelander now. Is it, if you do fuck yourself, is that being gay? I thought that was masturbation, but hey. None of this is going on the podcast, by the way, chat. That ain't happening.
You need to watch the episode of The Boys where that happens. That was like,
oh my God.
Lord,
my God. So I can at least do this much. I'll go ahead and give us a little bit of chill music here. There we go.
Oh my gosh.
Just drop that in.
Like what? The Boys
Oh
show
no,
music?
not boys chill music. This is just just a little.
Well,
little
yes.
something.
So we're doing a little
We're
bit of
doing
DIY.
a Fireside lore tonight.
But later on, I think by this time next week we should be able to get that fixed up.
Oh, what, the wall?
Yeah, the wall.
Yeah. So we're kind of jumping around.
That's why we're.
This is our jam. So going back to what we were saying earlier, we are doing a Fireside lore tonight, and the Fireside lore we have 12 pieces of lore.
Okay.
Thanks to Nerd Girl. I can't.
Can't even look at milk.
Can't even look at milk right now.
New Zealanders love their dairy
I was going to say,
products.
Nerd Girl, what are you talking about?
Look at him.
Oh, Rick. Rick has not seen season 2.
You will.
It's coming out of the box swinging, baby. It's coming out of the box swinging, and it's fan-effing-tastic.
Every episode, man.
They just raised the bar. The bar.
So, T got a lot of wood today.
I did. Nice segue, honey. Nice segue. Can we finish what we were talking about earlier?
No, we're going to jump around like a couple of...
Gonna jump around, jump up, get down. Okay. You might notice.
We do not get milk in a bag, Monkey. I
right.
do not know what that is, and it sounds vile.
First, tonight, 9 o'clock, we're doing a Fireside Lore. Okay? Tonight at 9 o'clock, we're doing a Fireside Lore. Wanted to make sure you all heard that. You so white. Yeah, no shit.
Oh, man, we've done the DNA.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we are.
I'm as white as this wall. Now let's talk about the wall. You might notice, chat, that the wall actually doesn't have the lights on it anymore. And no longer has the bullet hole that you saw. And you'll notice there's some putty here. It's because this is the new project that Pip and I are undertaking. We're basically painting this wall. And
it's white and boring.
It's white and it's boring, and T's so white that I'm blending into the background, and so
Your ancestors did you no favors.
Absolutely none. So that's our. So you'll notice the absence of bullet holes. There's going to be some changes coming to the studio, and it's about time. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Let's see. So yeah. Fireside Lore tonight at 9. Changes to the studio. That'll be happening throughout the week. So the other thing too is as many of you know, I will be back next week with Saturday morning cartoons unless we decide we're gonna paint the wall. But I did want to say, as you can see, I am upright, which means that the 10 miles that I ran yesterday
did not kill
me.
Well done, sir. Well done.
I'm very happy about that. I'm still a bit tender. But now let's get to the wood. Let's talk about my wood, shall we?
A man came and delivered wood.
A man came in and slipped me some wood.
You left
for
him
$40
some money
for $40. Right now, Marv is just on the other side going, Jesus
this stuff's
Christ.
writing itself.
So Pip found on, and this is another reason why we tolerate Facebook.
There is a local group.
I have no words. That's
a big stack of wood, Marv.
Yeah.
Big.
We basically found some place that was going to deliver chopped oak for fire pits, and we were like,
apparently this guy has a little business where he's like, put out $40 and I'll bring you a big load of wood.
So we were like, okay, slip me your wood, and sure enough, he did.
We slipped him $40.
$40 of wood.
I didn't even see him. Didn't even see him. He just delivered the wood
say
and
thank
left.
you. I was just like, yeah, all right, you done? Cool.
He also left a little pile of kindling out there for you.
Kindling! Fantastic. That's like foreplay for fire. This is why people come to the shared desk. There are two shared desks. There's shared desk and then there's shared desk after dark. And giggity. And I think that's what people are digging here right now.
So we have a very nice pile of wood that I would say you probably get 2 or 3 fires out of, even with you.
It's solid wood though. Solid.
Thick.
Fuck with 2 C's. Fuck. All right.
Enough wood jokes.
But I was gonna say, we will be doing Fireside Lore. We know firewood.
The nice thing is that the sun is setting later, earlier. Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, we were gonna try to do 8:30, but I think. But
sunset is what, 7?
No. Sunset's around. We were thinking about doing 8. What? Oh, computer. What time is sunset this evening in Bristow, Virginia?
The local sunset time in Bristow, Virginia for Sunday, September 20th is 7:07 p.m.
So it's 7 o'clock.
Wow, it's getting late.
I mean, I would have. Now, the reason I'm not saying that we're going to jump and do it like at 8 o'clock or anything is mainly because I wanted to make sure that I had time to set it up. So while Pip is making dinner, I'm going to be outside setting up and making.
So we're not going to go till 9?
I can try. All right. I just didn't want us to rush through dinner.
Oh, dinner's ready to go. I mean, it'll take me literally like half an hour to make it.
All right. 8 o'clock then. Let's do 8 o'clock.
We can do 8.
We'll do 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock tonight. Fireside Lore. Be ready for that. 8 o'clock. Fireside Lore. I will make the change. I will announce it on Twitter. But yeah, really, that's what. this is what has been going on with us. We've been enjoying The Boys.
And you know what we're really looking forward to? Friday, the Great British Baking Show.
Right, new season of the Great British Baking
Or
Show.
as Marv would know it, the British Bake Off?
The Great British Bake Off.
Bake Off, yeah.
Great British Bake Off. So we now have the Great British Bake Off to watch. We have Chef's Table, which is absolutely phenomenal. Man, they got an edition.
They got a barbecue.
They got a barbecue edition of Chef's Table. Oh my God, it's insane. There's they got.
What's that look all the girls are doing?
Oh, it's the. Which I'm sorry, I know that this is an anime thing, but if I'm being intimate with my wife and she suddenly does this,
I'm like,
I'm taking her to the vet. I'm taking her to the doctor. I'm taking her somewhere to get that cabeza examined because something's wrong if at the height of Shangri-La and pleasure you do this. Maybe I'm old, but I don't get it, chat. I don't get it.
How sexy is that? Not really. I don't find
How
it
awkward is this? That's what I'm asking. I love hanging with you all. So yeah,
But the Bake Off is awesome.
oh yeah, the Bake Off is awesome. And then so going back though to the Chef's Table Barbecue Edition. So they have a little old lady in Texas
That's right.
who works as a janitor during the week, but then like Saturday she opens up this barbecue pit, and it's like people just come out of the woodwork for this woman's barbecue.
There was a guy down in South Carolina.
South Carolina, yes, The Mandalorian. Yeah, that's coming in October.
yeah.
It's coming in October. And then there's a Great British Bake Off. Oh, so sorry, going back to Chef's Table Barbecue. Then they talked to this guy in Australia who only works with live fire.
He is serious.
This guy is hard effing core. He doesn't have gas or anything. He is just using straight up fire, and he's like putting his hand in the flames.
His name is Lennox Hasty.
Is that the guy?
Lennox Hasty, yeah.
In South Carolina.
And then there was Rosalia Chuchuk in
Yeah.
Mexico.
Now,
Yeah.
the woman in Mexico that they talked to for Chef's Table Barbecue, this was apparently where barbecue originated. This is like the home territory for it. So yeah, that was kind of cool.
Chef's Table's great, and they also have a French
Yeah.
one as well. It's
Yeah,
French spin-off.
it's great. Oh, but we discovered a new one, chat. We discovered a
The
new
Taco
one.
Chronicle? Was it called the Taco?
No. So Pip and I found this show based out of, I think it's Spain, and it's called Originales Especial.
Yes.
Yeah, Originales Especial or Secret Origins.
Well, they had, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the premise. Check this out, chat. Check this out. A cop basically comes across a new case where it's a death, and it's a series of deaths. And what the cops figure out is that the deaths are all comic book related. One guy apparently is he's given an overdose of radiation, and then there's another person, and they're encased in a suit of iron. There are all these different things.
Okay, it's called Origins Secretos.
Oh, Origins Secretos. That's
Which
it.
is Secret Origins, but they couldn't use that in America because that's a DC.
That's a DC line.
So it's called Unknown Origins
it's called Unknown Origins.
on Netflix.
But it's on Netflix, and
In Steampunk Rick, it has a plague doctor in it.
and what's cool about this show is that basically the police chief's daughter is a cosplayer, so they partner her up with the detective, and then they both contract out this guy who runs a comic book shop, and they're trying to catch this killer who is basically copycatting all these.
I'm surprised they didn't get sued.
Oh my
because
god!
Marvel and DC.
But it's genius. Are you kidding? It's genius. So yeah, so I think we're gonna start watching that. With all the copious amounts of free time we have.
Yes.
All right.
And we'll try and use our Espanol.
We're gonna try to use our. We're gonna still leave subtitles on, but we're gonna try to see how much we
Try
can
and see if
actually
can
watch.
use-
Yeah.
We're starting to get to the stage where we can pick things out enough.
Yeah, we're getting there.
And we could definitely order at a restaurant.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. La mesa para 3 personas.
Yes, necesitamos.
Necesitamos
una
el
mesa
vaso de
para-
agua. Necesitamos la cerveza. Por favor. Andale, andale. Oh, and now the closed captioning is really struggling. It's really struggling. All right.
It's not in Espanol.
No, all right. So, chat, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us for the after show. Just wanted to touch base with you all. Just say hey. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. We really do appreciate it.
So I'm gonna go and cook dinner, and you're gonna go and
I'm gonna
build a fire.
I'm gonna start building a fire and setting up the cameras for everything. So until next time, everybody. Thanks. We appreciate you sticking around. Talk to y'all later.
See you soon.
Happy birthday, Amanda.